Get started. First of all, I just want to thank Lisa and Sherry and Cowgirl Tuff for inviting me to come today and talk with you guys. My name's Tammy Billingsley. I'm a 3-time world champion mounted shooter. For those of you who aren't familiar with mounted shooting, it's like barrel racing with guns, only not. We shoot 45 action single long Colt revolvers. We shoot a black powder blank ammunition, and it's a timed event. We also have penalties for missed targets and knocked over barrels, which is all those penalties are 5 seconds apiece, and 10-second penalty for a broken pattern. We run about 60 different patterns, so at any given competition, I could run 6 of 60 given patterns that are drawn. So for my sport, I feel that the horsemanship is really, really important. For that reason, it is different than barrel racing because I can't pattern a horse specifically for one pattern. And also it's different than the roping events because the horse does not have the cattle to lock onto and to track. So for this sport, you have to have a pretty broke horse. They have to rein over the neck because I can't use my other hand. It's got a loaded gun in it, so but it's a really fun sport. I really enjoy it. I've been doing it for about 15 years, and it's a lot of fun. Great people. It's an excellent family sport. Something that mom, dad, the kids, grandma, and grandpa can all do. It's a level system similar to team roping. So you start out as an entry level 1, and you can work your way up to the highest levels, level 6, and it's based upon the amount of wins that you have, so it's not a committee situation like team roping where it's maybe a little prejudice. It's based on your performance solely. So I brought just a quick video to show you guys so that for those of you that haven't seen it, you can get a little taste of it.
Who did this for you?
This was one of the photographers that was at this is actually the World Championship in 2012. And the clips I'm going to show you is 3 runs. It's the eliminator. So it's basically what it sounds like. It's an elimination process. So everyone that enters runs the first stage. They take the top 20 back from that stage. Everybody runs the next run, and they take the top 10 back to the finals, and then it's a short go situation where it's 1 run determines the winner.
Where'd she go? I was just going to ask her if we would be able to upload this to our video player in there or a Jumbotron.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. No. No.
Actually, this one I do.
I did.
Yeah, or the next one. Yeah, usually in the eliminator, if you miss
a hack on.
Yeah, I run both of my main competition horses right now in a hack moor. So, my old mare I ran in a collection, but they're both of these horses. This is my stallion.
Okay.
Yeah, and they both work really well in a hack.
Once the gun changes, she changes the gun. It's 5 shots.
Yeah.
You can't tell.
So you start with one gun, has 5 shots in it. You shoot the first 5 targets. And then you change guns, draw your second gun. And that was a miss, so that was a 5-second penalty. But
I didn't even see that miss.
Rewind. When I miss fast.
We'll see her out.
So, but actually I was fortunate enough that I did make the cut, the top 10, which doesn't happen. So this is the finals at World.
And where is this? Is this Arizona?
This is Amarillo. World is held in Amarillo, Texas. Yeah.
We watched some down in Globe, Arizona.
Oh yeah.
It's so fun. Does it look fun? No. Oh, it looks so fun.
So, as you guys can see, I mean, it's a little different than barrel racing. There's a lot that goes into it. everybody asks me what the secret to my success is, and I tell them all the same thing, that there's no secret to success, it's keys to success. And the keys, your keys to success are the skills that you have. And for me, my biggest skill, my strongest skill is my horsemanship. I think that that's really, really important, and it's allowed me to get to where I am, keep my horses sound physically and mentally, and yeah, just really be successful. So I want to kind of share with you guys a little bit of my horsemanship philosophy, if you will. First of all, regardless of your discipline, good horsemanship is good horsemanship. When in my training program, I use things that I have learned from Randy Paul reining clinics. I've learned things I've used from Sharon Kimberlil, barrel racing clinics, Dina Kirkpatrick barrel racing clinics. I try to, still to this day, I try to go and continue to educate myself, because if you stop learning, you stop getting better. And every day that I'm not trying to get better, somebody else is. And that person is going to beat me. So that's kind of what keeps me motivated to get up every morning and go out and do what I do. But the number one thing that I see in my sport, because this is a really high stress for horse and rider, is learning to control your emotions. Because if you can't control your own emotions, you can't control your horse's emotions. And if your horse is all jacked up, he's not going to go out there and be able to perform at his very best, and vice versa. And it's one feeds off of the other. So the horse is basically a mirror image of the rider. And I see really nice horses that people get that are very, well, I'd call them adrenaline junkies. And pretty soon the horse is totally out of control. And you see other people that are very calm, cool, and collected in any situation. And just like these horses, you know, they'll walk in on a fairly loose rein, they'll do their job, and they'll walk out with their head down. And to me, that's important, because that horse is going to have a lot of longevity. So with that said, I always want to know my horse's strengths and weaknesses. I want to build on their strengths, and I want to work on their weaknesses to bring them up to a level where they become a strength. And for not just my sport, but really any sport in equine discipline, a couple of things that I think are very, very important that get left out a lot is, number one, your position or your direction, okay? And whether you're talking about barrel racing, team roping, anything, you name the sport, position is really important. We were just listening to Alan Bach earlier this morning talk about team roping, and he was talking about position. It's very, very important, because if you're not in the right position, you're not going to be able to be most successful at your job. You're not going to be the most efficient that you can be. So I have a couple of drills that I do to work on my horse's position and work on my horse's direction. So basically, I'm going to use the cones now. And we're kind of in tight quarters here, but if we would imagine this in an arena setting. Okay. So I've got a cone at each side of the room. If this is my arena, okay, I'm gonna, at every gate, I'm gonna start at a walk. I'm gonna pick a specific spot on my arena fence, and I'm gonna ride my horse to that spot, okay? I'm gonna ride my horse, and I'm gonna let him stop at that position and relax, stand quietly, okay? What happens, especially people riding in the arena, because we're in the sandbox, okay? Our horse can't get away from us, we're just gonna go round and round in circles. People get very complacent. They don't ride their horse in a specific direction, okay? They just kind of go towards the cone, okay? Well, if I'm riding a horse, especially a young horse, and I'm just riding towards the cone, my horse could end up clear over here, okay? Now, that's only a couple feet difference, but in the length of an entire arena, okay, that's a huge difference. So if I'm running in a barrel pocket, that's going to be like a 40-foot barrel pocket instead of a 10-foot barrel pocket. If I'm running up to rope a steer, same thing. You have to find your lane and you have to find your spot that you want that horse to be. You have to be able to put his feet anywhere in that arena that you want to put him. I can pick a piece of a broken balloon in my arena and put my horse's foot right on top of it. That's how specific I want to be when I'm riding my horse. So that when I go out there to make my competition runs, it's muscle memory through repetition. That horse rides under me and he balances under me. So say I have a horse that won't hold that straight line, okay? He's distracted, he's moving all over the place, he's wishy-washy. I don't want to make a big deal of it. I don't want to overcorrect. It's like overcorrecting the steering wheel when you're driving. I want to, if my horse gets a little out of position, I want to pick him up with my rein and my leg. I want to keep that horse riding under me in position, okay? If he gets off a little to the left, same thing. I'm going to pick him up with my left rein, my left leg. I'm going to put him back under me, okay? When I stop my horse, I want my horse to stop square in the position that I ask him to go to. If he quarters off with his hind end, okay, again, I'm not going to make a big issue of it. I'm just going to move my left leg back, and I'm going to move his hind quarter back over so he's standing square, okay? Same thing if he moves off to the right. Same thing if he quarters off with the front end, okay? I want that horse to stay under me at all times. Now, if he stands there quiet, I'll roll him over his hocks and I'll go back across the arena and I'll do it again, okay? If I have a horse, I like this drill because I can use it for lots of different applications. If I have a horse I want to work on their stop, okay, I can come up here, ask them to stop. If they don't stop really correctly and get on their back end, I'm going to back them up. Okay, and then I'm going to send them off their hocks really hard. So this is a really, really simple exercise, but I use this every time I get on my horse, whether I am training, exercising him, or warming up to go compete. And where I find this, another place I find this really useful is when I'm at a new arena that my horse hasn't been at, and there's all the scary banners or whatever. We've all been there where we have something that our horse is distracted by. I'm going to get my horse in that arena because I know my horse well enough to know what's going to bother him. I'm going to pinpoint that before I make my run. I'm going to get the horse in the arena and I'm going to do the same exercise right up to whatever that scary object is. Okay? And I'm going to do that until that horse has been there so many times that he becomes comfortable, so when I go in to make my run, he's been there and seen it. So say, for example, on a third barrel on a barrel pattern, okay? And you're in an arena like Fort Worth Stock Show where they have the big dark alleyway in the back where the tractor's parked, okay? I want to ride my horse to that same position where my third barrel would be. I'm going to ride him to that pocket. I'm going to ride him past all the way to the fence. That way he's there, he sees it, and he's okay with it. Because we've all been in that situation where it's cost us at one time or another. So I want to eliminate any potential problem that I can before I go out and make my run. So that's something really simple, really basic, but people forget it. And I do this drill at a walk, at a trot, at a lope. I don't do it at a really hard run because I don't want to run my horse up into the fence, and I don't want to fence him like the reiners do because I don't want my horse to scotch off of that wall, okay? Just like here at the NFR, that's a small pen. The barrel is so close to the arena fence that those horses get so short, okay? In arenas like that, in my sport, I never have to worry about that with my horses because I know they're going to go right where I put them. They're going to trust me enough to know I'm not going to put them in a bad situation, and so they're going to stay with me and stay honest. So again, that's a really simple drill that I really like to use, and I use it on green horses all the way up to my finished horses. Okay, so moving on, another aspect of horsemanship that I think is hugely important for me and probably one of my greatest strengths for my sport is rate. And especially in my sport, because it is a timed event, nobody wants to pull on the reins. Nobody wants to slow their horse down because the clock's running, okay? Got to keep kicking, keep kicking, keep kicking. Well, that's not always the case, okay? I have patterns where I have targets that are 9 feet apart, okay? And I'm shooting a single action pistol that I have to pull the hammer back and pull the trigger every time I shoot. So I can't go blazing down there and expect to be able to hit all my targets at full speed. My horse has to come back to me and give me that opportunity to hit my targets. And by having a horse that will rate and that will work correctly, I don't have to run my horse as hard because my horse is more efficient. Okay, he rates in the right places, and then he'll run in the right places. And in the last couple of years, because of people's mentality, because it is a speed event, I've actually changed my presentation on rate. Instead of calling it rate, I call it a change of speed, which equals a change in stride. Okay, because really that's what it is. Whether you're going into a barrel at a barrel pattern, whether you're going into shoot a pattern for my sport, or whether you're going to rope a steer, okay? Horses have to be able to lengthen and shorten their stride to work efficiently. So if you watch team roping, those head horses they go blasting out of the box. Once they get it roped, they want to set that horse down on his hind end. They shorten his stride up so he has the power to turn off and to log that steer, okay? Barrel racing, you see it all week long at the NFR here, same thing, okay? Those barrel horses have to go in there, they go up that alleyway, but they gotta shut down when they get to that barrel. The horses that don't shorten their stride up are the ones that are blowing by the barrel. It's not necessarily that they're not picking the barrel up. They know that barrel's there. They know they're supposed to turn it. They can't physically make the turn. The momentum is pushing them out. They don't have the power and the strength to hold themselves in that tight turn, okay? So one of the exercises that I do, again, I start this out at a trot, is I do, like, all the way around the perimeter of my arena, I'll set up cones, a series of cones. I'll put them at different distances, and I will go and I'll ask my horse to extend like a long and low, like an English or a dressage horse will do, okay? I want to try to get that horse to reach as far as he possibly can with each step, okay? I get to my marker, I want to set my horse down nice and soft, transition, and I want him to do a Western pleasure trot. Really short strided, really collected, okay? And when I do this drill, I'm it's a very drastic change in stride, okay? I want to really over-exaggerate that because when I go out here and the adrenaline's running, if I've over-exaggerated it in the practice pen and in the training pen, my horse, again, through muscle memory, is going to respond, and he's going to put himself in the right body position, okay? So that way I can make a turn. I can get into a tight cluster of balloons. My horse will shorten his stride, maintain his momentum, so I don't have a stop and a start effect, okay? So I'll do that drill at a trot. When my horse gets efficient at a trot and has smooth, responsive transitions, I'll go from a trot to a lope as my lengthening of stride, and back to a trot as my shortening of stride. And eventually I'll go from that to a lope for the shortening of stride to a pretty good clip at my lengthening of stride. Once I get my horse where he's efficient at that drill on the rail, then I'm going to take it out and do it in the middle of the arena, okay? Because for any of you guys that have spent much time riding in the arena on young horses, they get pretty efficient doing things on the rail, and then you take them out into a big arena, and they don't have that security of the fence anymore, all of a sudden they forgot everything they've learned. Okay, so we have to always prepare them for the next step. So I think that's really, really probably two of my favorite exercises as far as my horsemanship, that my students that have taken this from my program and really put it to good use have had a lot of success. So, does anybody have any questions about any of the exercises?
I just want to know, did you, something different, but have you always been able to shoot?
No, I never shot a gun until 15 years ago when I started this.
Really?
Yeah.
And you're just a natural?
Well, no. No. It was a long, hard struggle. I grew up in a hunting family, and I knew gun safety, but I had no interest in shooting whatsoever. So when I first started this, I came from high school rodeo. I ran barrels and poles, team rope to the bull, tried to team rope in high school. So I could ride a horse, okay?
Yeah.
But I couldn't shoot the gun. So I would I would go to when I first started for the first several years, I would go to the competitions, and I would have the fastest raw time before penalties, okay? But I usually, with my penalties, was closer to the bottom of the list. So, and that's one thing, like I said, why I've changed my approach to the rate, because I was that person that never wanted to slow my horse down from barrel racing and from
Because
bull
you were
bending.
going for the timer.
Yeah,
And
you're always thinking the clock's ticking,
Yeah.
so it's a mindset that you have to kind of change a little bit. And so that's, again, why I've changed my thought process and my approach, because I was about 4 years into the sport, and all of a sudden one day I thought, you know what? This really sucks. I'm either going to get better.
So you were the fastest,
or I'm going to
right?
quit. Yeah.
But then you got docked for so many
When
misses.
you have 3 or 4 misses in a 6-stage run or a 6-stage competition,
Right.
yeah, I mean, how many barrels can you hit at a 3-run
So how
barrel
did
race?
you get better then?
I slowed down.
Okay.
Number one, I slowed down. But another part of it that I wanted to actually talk about, so thank you, that was a good lead in, is the mental side of any sport, really. Pro athletes today, I mean, basketball, football is so huge, they have sports psychologists, okay? The equestrian world is really behind the 8 ball as far as that goes. I know the English dressage world has gotten, into it a little sooner. I know a lot of the, pro rodeo cowboys probably are doing it now in recent years, but that was probably my biggest downfall, was the mental approach, the mental preparation. I had to slow things down. I had to change my aspect. I had to change my thought process. I had to change my speech even. Instead of, I would go to the shoots and I would say, gosh, I can't miss it. If I don't miss, I'll win. Well, if you go to the 10th round of the NFR and you've left all your barrels up to that point and you think, if I don't hit a barrel, I'm going to win the world championship, you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself. It's the wrong way to approach it. Yeah. And that's the other thing is, and this is one of the things that I learned actually from an English, mental preparation book, is you have to change your thought process and you have to change your speech. The subconscious mind and the conscious mind work together but separately. So your conscious mind is what you teach yourself consciously to tie your shoe. Once you've done that so many times, your subconscious mind does it on its own, so you don't have to think about tying your shoe anymore. But what most people don't realize is when you tell your conscious mind, don't hit a barrel, don't miss this steer, don't break the barrier, okay? When it gets transferred to the subconscious mind, it loses something in translation. The subconscious does not recognize the negatives in our language. So instead of hearing, don't hit a barrel, don't miss the steer, don't break the barrier, all our subconscious mind hears is hit the barrel, miss the steer, break the barrier, okay? And the subconscious mind is programmed to do what we tell it to do. So, with that said, when I would go to these competitions and I would tell myself, gosh, I can't miss a balloon. If I don't miss a balloon, I'll win. I'd go out there and I'd miss. Once I started working at my mental program and really, really believed in it, I started getting better results. I changed my thought process to, to go out there and be successful, to hit 10 targets. Okay? I changed my approach from going out there to have the fastest time to having the fastest clean time with no penalties. Okay? Or even to just want to be in the top 5 on every run.
Because how do you practice shooting the balloons at a high rate of speed and not burning your horse out?
That's the hard part.
You know what I mean?
That's the hard part.
Like you get in the car and you drive. And
yeah, I actually was really fortunate. My old mare, she's 18 years old now. I just retired her. She was a saint. Because when I first started, I didn't know. Nobody at that time, the sport was so new that there wasn't people teaching clinics and giving lessons. There was no help out there. So that's exactly what I did, just like a lot of the barrel racers do. I went out there, practice, and it helped my shooting, but like you said, a lot of times you'll burn your horse up. I was really, really blessed. God bless me with an amazing, animal that just could take it mentally.
They would put up with you.
Yeah.
Doing it over and over and over.
Yes, exactly.
And
but since then, I with these 2 horses that you saw today, I've changed my program. I keep them in shape. I keep their skills tuned. I practice. I maybe run 1 or 2 practice stages on them a week or 2 before I go to a big event. And that's only for my confidence, for my timing with them more than anything. But yeah, I've done it. I've tried the 4-wheeler, drive down there and shoot. Well, the throttle's on the wrong side, so then you try to have somebody else do it. It's, yeah. The thing I've had the best luck with, as far as that, is when I do practice, I'll practice on my young horses I'm trying to season, and I'll just set my targets closer together. I'll shorten my pattern up, so I can take them through still at a slower speed, but the targets are still coming at me faster.
Oh, okay.
And so that way I
So do you think that would
get
be a
both
good way for
accomplished.
someone to, if you want to try it, would that be a good way for someone to start?
The best way for someone to start, in all reality, because I started wrong, so I can tell you, is to find a seasoned horse that's an older horse that's, that's you're not going to fry, and then go learn from somebody that's going to teach you the basics right from the get-go. The good mechanics, instead of just handing, like when I started, they just handed us guns, threw us on a horse that had done it once or twice, and we went out and blasted balloons. And that's great because it gets people hooked, but it gets them hooked the wrong way. They get hooked on that out-of-control adrenaline rush rather than building on something that's going to be successful in the long run. So what I do with my students now is I'll have a lesson horse or a training horse that's basically never going to get out of a slow lope. Kind of a lazy horse, whatever, that they can kick on, whatever.
And they don't care.
They don't care. They can shoot, whatever. The horse doesn't care. And then that way they can get past that point where it's all kind of a blur for the person until they can actually start working on their mechanics and their skills. Once they start working on the mechanics and skills, then they realize how important it is. And from then on, they're usually pretty successful.
Question. So how do you find the horse that's right for this? Because I mean, blasting a gun by their face, it's got to be kind of scary for them. So how do you come about finding one that's comfortable with it?
That's a good question. In the 15 years that I've been doing this, I have seen horses that you would swear would not care a bit about the gunfire, that are kids' horses, rope horses, pickup horses, really broke horses that have been there, done that, seen it all, hate it. I've also seen horses, when I first started, as a matter of fact, the horse I first started on was my high school barrel horse. He was an easy jet bred horse, and he was hot. And he was a handful, and I thought, oh my gosh, there's no way. He could have cared less about the gunfire. So I've learned that I never judge a book by the cover, but what I've done since I've learned and kind of trial and error, I've come up with a program. Regardless whether I think the horse is going to tolerate it or whether I don't think the horse is going to tolerate it, I have like a 4-step desensitizing program that I take them through. So every horse starts exactly the same. It's basically like a quarter load, so it's like a cap gun. It's very, very minute sound. And I'll have them around it. I'll shoot that off of them first. I never shoot up by their head, okay? I always try to shoot behind them. So if they do get scared, they can move away from it, okay? Because what happens is when people start and they try to shoot out in front of them, the horse starts moving away from it sideways, or they stall out.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. They could go.
Yeah, exactly. So, so that's the biggest thing is, you know, just to go through the steps correctly. But since I started doing this, I've had 4, maybe 5 horses that I couldn't get desensitized to the gunfire. I use earplugs on my horses, so that helps a lot. Some people don't, but I wear earplugs when I shoot, so I feel like I owe that same courtesy to my horse.
Yeah.
I want to be able to call him when he's out in the pasture and have him hear me.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, so those are just a few of the, you know, the little things that I do that I think make a big difference in the long run. So real quickly, before we finish up here, success is a state of mind. So whatever level you start at, whether, it doesn't matter what you're doing, shooting, barrel racing, team roping, success is a state of mind. So if you come with the attitude of, you know, my horse isn't good enough, you know, I'm not a good enough rider, you may as well stay home. You need to be realistic about your situation, but go there with a positive approach. Go there to make the best run that you and your horse can make that day and build on that. When I first started riding, I didn't really come from a real strong horse background, and my parents didn't have a lot of money. My dad was a truck driver, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, but I was really fortunate in the fact that they were supportive. They would take me whenever they could. They would take me to these places and do these things that I wanted to do with the horses. The horse I started out with was a trail horse. So I would go to the horse shows with my trail horse. I'd go to the barrel races with my trail horse. And looking back on it, at the time I hated it. You know, I thought, gosh, you know, Megan has, you know, a professionally trained horse and I can't compete with that. But looking back on it, it actually was a blessing in disguise, because I learned right from the very beginning, I learned what it took to really have a good horse. Instead of having it just handed to me where it was easy, I learned how to do it myself. And like I said, I was fortunate enough, my parents, you know, they did everything they could to get me to where I could learn. I was in 5th grade, I went to a Sharon Cameron clinic that cost $500, and you know, most people thought my mom was crazy for hauling me 600 miles to this clinic, okay? But over the years, even now looking back, you know, every once in a while I think, oh, yeah, that's what she meant. I might not have totally understood it right then and there, but in time, it came back. So, you know, that's one thing I see these kids, you know, all the time, and yeah, it is what you make it. So, you know, be realistic, but set goals. You know, dream big, and set goals that are going to help you get there. Set short-term goals, long-term goals, and sky's the limit. You know, I mean, they have it set up for somebody to win. Why not you? Somebody's gonna win. Somebody's gonna win. May as well be me. So, yeah, just work hard, set your goals, and have fun.